This will be our Revelation study on chapter 9, part 59. And if you hear some dripping, that's because there's a roof leak, and that's just the way that it is. Sorry about that. We'll deal with it when we deal with it, so pardon me for that. So, as we are going to be starting today again on Revelation 9, we will begin in prayer and we'll start with our study. And again, pardon the dripping. It's just the roof leak we're dealing with. So, all right, so Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity that we have to be coming together with, for you and to worship you and to always understand more of what you have to say to us through your word. Continue to help us to not be distracted with this roof leak and help this thing to get fixed and this thing be repaired and not be any more of a hindrance to us. And Father, we thank you so much for all that you do to continue to help us and guide us, direct us as your children, to keep our minds steadfast on you, and all the more as we see your day approaching, forsaking not the assembling of ourselves together. And we all just thank you always for all the gifted love that you give to us, not just to know you as your children, as our Savior, as our God and Father, but also to know you more deeply and to understanding you and your word. And we thank you so much for all that you give and continue to provide for us. And we ask that you continue to help us this day to understand more of the things written to your Apostle John, and as we are looking to the things that are being unveiled before us in the future. So we thank you for, again, your love and provision. We ask that you would be with us as our pastor, our teacher, our guide, our shepherd, our counselor, our coming bridegroom. And may the words of my mouth, meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, for you are our Lord and our Redeemer, our rock. And we ask this in Jesus, Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. Again, today is going to be the lesson on continuing to go forward on Revelation. So it is kind of distracting. It's just filling up with water. So as we go through this, we're going to look back at what we already have seen so far in Revelation, the first 8 chapters. And I erased the board because today what I'm going to be doing is putting up there the sequential things about the seals and the trumpets, because we need to now, kind of go to the next phase of not just reminding us of what has been spoken about, but then within the context of what's most recently been revealed to us by God, referring to the seals and the trumpets that he spoke of as well. So as we go through the process of that, we're going to be looking at the process involved with Revelation. First off, as we are looking back to the perspective, Revelation begins, as we know, with the mindset people need to take. In Revelation chapter 1, he tells us to, again, read again, anakrino, to hear, and to observe, to hold closely to the details in chapter 1, verse 3. We know that in chapter 1, it's the personal angel of Jesus giving the assist to John. We know that also he says these things must happen. We're getting now to the teeth of some very demonstratively sad and death-oriented pestilences, famines, natural disasters, just a lot of carnage of human and animal life in this second half. And yet to know the beginning of the whole book, Jesus told the Apostle John, who's seeing this, these things have to happen. So imagine seeing that and then you being in the back of your mind being told by Jesus it has to happen. Like there's no way out. There's no preventing of this, which is where people that are amillennial or other folks that think that we have a free will to prevent it, you can't. It has to happen. So that's interesting to know that. And then as you go through the entire first chapter, he presents himself very demonstratively as a judge. Again, he could have chosen any way to present himself. He presents himself as a judge. Jesus does. He presents to John that he was in the Spirit in chapter 1, verse 10. We know the audience is the called out ones. Again, we talked about on Friday that the misnomer of nomenclature, of definition of terms, that the word Christian and church is misunderstood. The word church should be better notated as one of two things. You want to use it as a euphemism to say, I'm going to church. That's not the proper usage, but if you want to use it that way, okay, fine. But the actual definition of the term and referencing to the scriptural context is the group of called out ones, which is a group within a group that's been called out, that are not just in Christ, but at a higher level of what Jesus said in Matthew 13:11, that have been given privileges to see the secrets and mysteries of the kingdom of the heavens. So as we go through in context, also he mentioned the golden lampstands as the description of these called out one groups, which is a unique demarcation of who this is. So we have a unique demarcation of those that are going to be looked at as types of menorahs, and menorahs in the Old Testament, the menorah, I should say, had obviously specific nature of its time, its place in the holy place, its definition of details spent on it, So we know that there's quite a bit of details of why. They weren't just in the outer courtyard, they weren't just in the inner courtyard, they were in the holy place, which is a type of the throne room of God the Son to begin with. And so that's an interesting thing to also remember. Then he talks about having his 7 stars, which are these 7 angels he has in his hand. Then the 7 letters, we mentioned to the called out ones, he mentions 15 overcomers promises. We have those on the board at the very top. And we know that these congregations are in order of geographic location, but also in order of how Ephesus had the most amount of time, good to see you, by the way, most amount of time spent with him in 3 years, and then 2 years in Tyrannus. And we go down the list, and the first 4 letters, to remind you, are encompassing today's relevance of where we are spiritually in our maturity. The overall 7 letters are written to the 7 maturity levels of those that are in the spermacede, as he calls it, or the Mark IV parable of the sower and the seed, are depicting the 7 groups of spiritual maturities that you can have, the reaction or the response to having God eklego, or choose you to hear, and the truth within truth, the depth of Scripture, right? So these people, these 7 letters, represent the gamut of that. And remember, the question came, well, how can that be if church means called out ones, and called out ones are the mature ones who are 30, 60, and 100 fruit yield, then how can people below that be in view with the letters to these congregations, to these called out one groups, what they call churches, right? It's because when Jesus died and rose again from the dead, AD 34, then 30 years later, Paul had died, and he had sown that depth of understanding that Peter talked about, his depth of teaching. And then he said people don't understand it, will twist scriptures and other things to their own destruction. Then we also see that within that we have Paul then dies, and 30 years later, now John's writing this book in AD 95, 96. So that depicts the fact that the generation that heard Paul directly had died off. It's a second gen now picking up that sowing of that seed that Paul was sowing to them, that they sowed to their progeny or to other friends and others in Christ that didn't hear directly from Paul, either progeny or others who came in who did not directly hear that from Paul. And now they've had that leaven sown in by Satan. Matthew 13, the leaven sown into the kingdom of the heavens. 3 measures of meal, also the leaven sown in Luke 13, the kingdom of the God. 3 measures of meal, that represents the leaven in Luke 13. The kingdom of God sowing into the word of God, truth, the sporos, whereas the seed of the sperma is the kingdom of the heavens, leaven being sown into that. So 6 lies in total were being sown by Satan as diabolos to the word of God. He was sowing in, again, temptations of lies to go away from the truth of God's word, and then as Satanas to deceive people away from the depth within the truth of what really is out there and the levels of the depth of what inheritance really means. So all that being said, they were losing some sight of this, and there's people coming in that were also trying to learn. There was those who did learn who had died off, and there's a second tier people that knew indirectly about Paul's teaching. So John's writing these letters to wake them up, to say, hey guys, you've been sown a privilege and an opportunity, and you have to live up to it. And if you don't, the stakes are high. Stakes are high for reward, but they're also high for consequences. And that's why, for example, well, where did you get that in Scripture? Give me a symbolism of where that's at. Well, it's pretty simple. Well, Paul said he has to fight a race and run a race in 1 Corinthians 9, 24, 27. He talks about running a race and saying, I don't want to run for this crown in Paris, is referencing the Olympic Games, literally. And he's talking about, hey, no. I want to run a race as if to win a crown that's imperishable. That's one of those crowns that we get in the heavens. And so Paul talked about how if he doesn't do that the right way, he himself might be disqualified, disapproved. So it doesn't mean unsaved. It means disqualified, not being found worthy of the inheritance. Again, people are lost on this in modern churchianity. Then in the Old Testament as well, we see this as well, this kind of idea of blessings and cursings, or inheritance or disinheritance among God's people, when you find Moses being told, get people up on Mount Gerizim and shout down blessings, and get them on Mount Ebal and shout down cursings on God's people. What? Yeah, so if they obey, I want you to hear, tell them if they obey, I'm going to bless them beyond their wildest imagination, but also remind them if they disobey, I'm going to break it off in their hind parts. Okay, like goodness gracious. He goes into some specific pestilences, death, and just pummeling them, and he's not being pleasant at all. And you want to read about that in Deuteronomy 28, not fun. It's by the way, a lot more lengthier explanation of the curses for disobedience, and a lot shorter for the rewards of obedience, which I find to be very interesting, because he knows by nature we're sinners. And we're going to do more likely than not, we're going to more than likely go in the flesh more often then we go in the spirit. That's just who we are. We're evil. We're just depraved doofuses. So, but God loves us. He just thank God for that. So with the relationship of the 7 letters he writes, he culminates with the first 4 representing who is the remaining maturity levels now that exist. So Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira represent a maturity level that exists today, but the other 3 of Sardis, Philadelphia, Laodicea don't come into existence until after you have the Messianic reign come into play, and those 3 called out ones that are in the heavens, then they come into existence out of those 4. They now only comprise of 3 levels of maturity. The Sardis ones represent the mature ones in general, 60 and 30 fruit, wise virgins majority, some foolish in there. Philadelphia is all 100 fruit people, faithful ones. And then Laodicea, foolish virgins and below, just a bunch of pompous, arrogant, self-assuming people. And by the way, that is really in concert with what you see in Matthew 7 when they start puffing their chest out about the kingdom of heaven and doing the will of the Father. What was in view in Matthew 7, and this, hey, Jesus, we cast out the demons, we raised the dead, we healed the sick. Impressed? He goes, no, you're an idiot. And so then he just basically says, depart from me, your works of iniquity, right? And many people in Christianity will say Matthew 7, that's 7:22 is about people that think they're believers, but they're not. Really? So then why is the kingdom of the heavens in view, and why is doing the will of the Father in view? Why is not heaven in view, and why is not grace through faith in view? Just a question you should ask yourself, and stop believing what everybody tells you. Read the book. Understand how Jesus said kingdom of the heavens in Matthew 7:22 is a reference to an inheritance in the heavens. It's an additional benefit for those in Christ, and only those in Christ. Matthew 5, Jesus talked about kingdom of the heavens having to be a works that excelled at the Pharisees and Sadducees. And he said there was greater and little in the kingdom of the heavens. Jesus said that. So much for heavenly communism, right? So that's not what that's about, right? So people don't understand. So they also don't, when you see the will of the Father in view, in Matthew 7, you also have to know, wait a minute, how can a person who doesn't know God, who's consumed in sin, depraved in sin, engulfed in death and darkness, and blind to the light, how can they have any chance at all to do the will of the Father? They can't. So when Jesus brings that up, who's he bringing up? Those who have been given the information, the enlightenment, to know what the will of the Father is, and only those can then be able to do the will of the Father. Duh. But no one thinks about that, right? They just want to read what they want to read into it. And so they're not really saved, they're kind of saved, they're kind of think they're saved. Where are you getting this from? It's all from their head and from tradition. It's all just not true. So they can't deal with the fact that, if that's not true, then the alternative is worse. You're telling me that people in Christ could have an up and comings in the next life. Yeah. They don't want to hear about that. So that can't be true, so they don't want to deal with that. So they just, that 10,000 pound gorilla is like, I don't want to deal with that truth that changes everything. If I'm accountable in the next life, that I could have a bad statement said to me by Jesus. That just can't be true. It just can't be true because everybody tells me I'm happy times and cancer's gone and death is gone and everything's gone, and so I can't possibly have a bad thing happen to me in the next life. Well, okay, that's nice you think that way, but stop assuming things and start reading, right? And see what God says about it. There are accountabilities. Again, so remember, Apostle Paul said also in Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 10, that we have a given account of the deeds done in the body, whether good or bad, good or bad, good or bad, good or bad. And he said we stand before a bema seat, which is a high lifted up platform. We're looking up, and he's adjudicating, which is meaning he's deliberating between a guilty verdict or a verdict of again, filtering through. An adjudication means a filtering through goods and bads he's mentioned, because we're accountable. So just so we know, it's an accountability. Some people say, it's an award ceremony. No, it's not. It's an accountability time. So just so we're clear about that. So all that's in view in these 7 letters of the congregations. Then he goes into chapter 4 and talks about another door. What he mentioned in Philadelphia as an open door. He mentioned in Laodicea as knocking on that door. Interesting, he didn't mention this door at all in the first 4 letters, did he? No. Did he mention it to Sardis? No. So why does he mention it to Philadelphia and to Laodicea? Why? Why the open door to Philadelphia? Why the knocking on the door in Laodicea? Because it's the door of the diaconon that's guaranteed to Philadelphia that he's trying to, he is lazy. Let people know in Laodicea, hey, foolish virgin, hey, you need more oil. You might want to get some you market on, you want to pay attention here. I'm trying to help you. You got to get the gold refined by fire. You got to, would you listen to me? No, we're rich, we need nothing. No, we're good to go. We're clothed, we're not naked. Oh my gosh, you're naked. The garment that you got is oh my God. You need another garment. Get the wax out of your ears. Another garment to go on the diaconon. You're like, no, I'm good. Oh my gosh. It's just like, it's so infuriating. By the way, people today act the same way. I see it all the time in Bible studies that I go to. They act pompous and peacocked with all their, comes from their chest, how great they are in Jesus, how much God loves them. God loves you, yes. God died for your sin, yes. And God forgives you, yes. All those are true. That never changes, ever. That never changes. But you know what does change? Your experience with that, by how you take gratitude and take responsibility for how you live your life. That matters, by the way. Oh, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Those things are still true. I'm not saying they're not, but how you live your life and responsibility and accountability is also what's in view. Yeah, sorry.
I wonder why they don't mention the door to Sardis.
Yeah, because those are the wise virgins and total in view there, and they're going to, the bulk of them, if not all of them, go in as part of the consummate bride. The fear is that Philadelphia's guaranteed it, and the majority of foolish ones are going to miss it. So he's focusing on those that are guaranteed. Just want you to know you're guaranteed entrance. At Laodicea, the majority of you, remember, only a remnant of foolish ones go in. So the majority of you are going to miss this bad boy. So he's focusing on those guaranteed entrance, and those where the majority will miss it, will miss out. That's what he's focused in on. So he's trying to encourage them and implore them, you got to get this right, man. The majority of folks in Sardis are on the right track. They'll be okay. There's just some other ones that are just offshoots. But then you see in chapter 4, then he talks about the open door. He goes into the door of the Dikmon, and he goes into the Spirit again. Now he's looking back. In chapter 4 and 5, he talks to us about the Father's throne room and God the Son's throne room. And one of the big uniquenesses we see there is a type of the tabernacle and temple. So the apex of the pyramid city is the actual the throne room being spoken about, which is the Holy of Holies typology. And we find that's in reference to Hebrews 8 and 9. Then you find that underneath that is the holy place, which is the throne room of God the Son. They both have a glassy sea. The glassy sea of God the Father is a rainbow. The glassy sea of God the Son is sapphire. God the Father has seraphim and 4 living ones and 24 elders in his throne room. And then God the Son has cherubim by the altar of incense and below as well. The 2 different groups of cherubim that God the Father has. God the Son has. He also has, we find later on in chapter 8, Revelation, he has another angel who attends the altar uniquely, which, again, we talked about in Luke 1. Gabriel said he was attending the altar when he talked to Zechariah for the birth of John the Baptist being foretold. And yet we find an angel attending the altar not named in Revelation 8, which therefore could be Gabriel. So either Gabriel is just a unique chief angel or he's a cherubim. Either way, I think that he's the one in in Revelation 8 as compared to Luke 1, who's the one attending the altar by the altar of incense. So then also Jesus himself has his own personal angel we talked about in chapter 1 of Revelation, also in chapter 22. We also know God the Father has a personal angel. We're about to find out today in chapter 9 of Revelation that Satan has also a chief henchman. He's about to introduce him, who God is to us. And we're going to see that too. He likes to mock God a lot, doesn't he? He's just a jerk. So then we get to the fact of the throne rooms issue. The other different distinction is the seraphim are always crying out to God, the Father, saying, holy, 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 the Lord God, the Lord God, and the whole earth is full of his glory. And then you have the 4 living ones who are praising God the Son, who then say, holy, 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 the Lord God who reigns, who was, and is to come. And they're doing this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, forever and ever. And they don't stop, which I think is pretty awesome. And by the way, we found out that in the throne room, that the wings of the cherubim underneath it are the Mia voice you hear, and the Protos voice is the voice of God himself in the throne room, because it says in Ezekiel 10 that the wings of the cherubim are as the voice of God. I didn't say that. The scripture said that. So you're like, whoa, that's so many wings. There's like just tens of thousands of them underneath this pyramid city that they're like a hoverboard craft that directs where it goes, and there's a wheel, a gyroscope underneath them, eyes, and it's unbelievable, right? The description of them is just unreal. Eyes on the inside and on the outside of the 4 living ones. Eyes on the wings and on the feet of the actual cherubim. It's insanely, they're just all freaky deaky creatures that you look at. You don't picture some angel, hi. No, it's a freaky looking thing that you will not go, hey, how you doing? It wouldn't be like that. You'd be like, ew. So so it's kind of like, get your attention. They got 4 faces, the cherubim, a lion, an ox, an eagle, and a man. Versus the living one they each have 1 face, the 4 living ones. They each have 1 of those faces. But it's just interesting how they're all demarcated as uniquely distinct, just really described creatures that are different. And the 24 elders, they respond to the 4 living ones. 4 living ones announce like God the Son's movement, and they're announcing it. They kind of lead the way with an announcement. Then the 24 elders respond to their announcement. And that's why they throw their crowns, as we saw before the Father's throne. And chapter 4, we see that they throw their crowns before the one sitting on the throne. That's God the Father. Then in chapter 5, verse 6, we find the little lamb is standing by the one sitting on the throne. He takes the scroll. So why is that distinction be able to be understood, and why is it important to know? Because they don't do that until the end of the Messianic reign. Because the four living ones are shouting out, oh, he's coming. It's about to go down. Here comes his reign. Here comes the judge king. He's coming. And the 24 are like, oh, it's time for us to give up our stations. They know that. It's a matter of time now. The betrothed bride's been revealed. They're like, okay, time's ticking now. We only got 1,000 years left. And then the end of it comes, and they go, okay, here's our crowns for the Father. Why is that important to know? Because then the Father then does the inspection, and those crowns are given to the bride to take their station as the bride of Christ. And they are now the consummated bride, as Jesus confesses them before the Father and his angels. One of the overcomer's promises. So that's the last three congregations, or called out one groups. All those promises are being revealed to them as those who make it into that consummated bride, right? We also saw that Jesus has three thrones, remember? He has the throne on earth of Father David. He has God the Father's throne he sits on. Then he has his own throne he sits on. He sits on three thrones, two in heaven, one on earth. So that's like, well, okay, that's interesting. We saw that already, because in Laodicea he said, I sat down in my Father's throne and you'll sit in mine. Okay, well that means there's two. And then we know for a fact he comes back to earth and sits on Father David's throne. And there's your third one, right? So we know there's three he sits on. And so it's really powerful stuff in chapters 4 and 5 regarding the throne room of God. Then chapter 6 opens up, and we get that aspect of the seals. And we know the four living ones are the ones who announce, or they say, come, see, the first four seals that are opened up represent the white horse, the red horse, the black horse, and the pale horse. That's the Antichrist in the first two, and the beast in the last two. Just understand that distinction. So Satan is being revealed as the Antichrist, and the white and red horse as the white horse. This is all review, by the way. If I'm talking a little bit, a different clip here. So the white horse is the man of sin. And then you have the red horse, son of destruction. Then you have, then he gets killed. He comes back as the beast. Now he's the black horse, the lawless one. Then now he's the beast on the pale horse as the opponent. And that's the four different, and that's why each time a seal is open to represent these four horsemen, a living one is being used to say, come. Because it's a different representation versus the last three seals aren't dealing with a direct revealing and unmasking of who Satan is and how he's progressively unveiling himself throughout the entire 7-year trip. The first four seals are about showing you where his game plan is. The last three seals are basically communicating to you, how does his unveiling of his unmasking of the Antichrist and the beast, how does that affect mature ones who know what's going on, and the Jewish people who finally figure out the depth of what's going on. He's revealing that now in the last three seals, how they're all going to be affected. And it's not pleasant. It gets really ugly really fast. And he tells you then in chapter 6 and verse 9 and 10, talks about those ones who are crying out about the blood being avenged, remember? Those are the ones that are mature ones. 60 and 30 fruit yield of spermacy from the definition of those in Mark 4. Those are ones that know what's going on. They're the only group of people that know what's going on. Everybody else in Christ doesn't really get what's good. They know it's the tribulation, but they don't understand why are they here. They don't get that. They don't understand it. They do not know why. They know they're here. They know it's the Antichrist, but they don't go, how do we miss this? They have no answer for that. They don't know. The mature ones do know. So Satan, as the Antichrist, who's now the red horse, son of destruction, as it says in Revelation 6, he wants to take peace from the earth with a sword. He goes after and kills them. He hunts them down and murders them. And that's why they cry out, Holy One and True, which is this is a salutation Jesus gave to Philadelphia in reference to those who are faithful ones. Meaning that high level of knowing him as the bridegroom was known to these mature ones, and they understood. They were calling out to him once they are now died on the next side of heaven. Oh, they know. They have those people who are mature ones who are murdered, they get all automatically, just like those who are beheaded get to be heirs. Those who are murdered as mature ones automatically get to be part of the betrothed bride. That's why they're calling out the Holy One and True. They know who he is. Okay, just understand that. So mature ones, you get, oh my gosh, that stinks, we have to be here, and we have to get hunted down and murdered. Hey, the good news is, if you're hunted down and murdered, you are automatically then given that station as the betrothed bride because you lived in faithfulness to the duty of alarming people of what's happening. And Satan had to silence you. He had to cut you out. So when you say, oh, it stinks, I'm not going in the first wave, it's not that bad of a deal. But if you live the right way, and you then die for your faith, and you present with the truth of people, that you're going to be counted worthy to ascend to that level, and that's good for you. So that's good for you. So
Those that get taken in wave 2 and wave 3 alive don't get to be.
they don't get to be guaranteed the betrothed bride. No. So they get the wave, but they don't get, so they avoid being murdered, but they don't have that guaranteed betrothed brides thing because they didn't have to give their life. They didn't have to live unto death through that persecution. It's not going to be easy to, like, again, we talked about this and how the Antichrist is going to have a lot of control and manipulation over demonic things, covertly albeit, but it's going to be very difficult to deal with this. And the first half of tribulation, don't forget, we know there's a one world government that's ensued. We know there's a one world currency that's ensued. We know that is a fact, and also a one religion. So we have a one world religion, we have a one world currency, we have a one government. Those three things are in view in the first half. Fact. It's a fact. So the government, the currency, and the religion are all one under the Antichrist. He's a unifier of lies under the pretense that, well, Christianity hates speech. Okay. Does it happen right away? No. The one world religion thing comes as he's the red horse. So the currency and the government are the first things he does as the white horse. As the government and the currency are the first things he instills. The one government and the one currency. First thing he does. Those two things. Then, midway into the first half, 18 months in, as the red horse, then he goes, oh, by the way, speaking of speaking of unity, we're going to have one religion now. Christianity's hate speech. And all those who believe in this other stuff are hate speech. And he starts to use the Catholic Church, this is what it means as general, to generalize and unify people under one banner of just believing in God in a general sense. Of course, they don't know that he's saying he's God, kind of like Freemasons do. Hey, I'm not going to tell you that I'm really saying Lucifer's God here. They don't say that to you. They call him great architect of the universe, but they're saying that that's Lucifer. But hey, they don't tell you that until you get to the 32nd degree later. And oh, by the way, what? So then they kind of shock you with that. So just like Mormons don't teach you that Elohim had physical sex with the Virgin Mary. They don't teach you that when you first become a Mormon, just so you know. I know Mormons and I've talked to them. They do not know, just so you know. They get involved in a little coup d'etat, they go on a little missionary journey, then they come back, go to the temple, they get their genitals touched and blessed, and then they're told, oh, by the way, Elohim had sex with the Virgin Mary physically. What? So I'm already long in the tooth now. I spent years in. I went on a mission field. You touched my genitals, and you so-called blessed me to have babies in the temple in Utah. And now you're going to tell me that Elohim and Virgin Mary had physical relations? You held this back from me all this time? Yeah, they sure did. Because they know if you told that up front, you'd freak out. Like, what? What? They had physical relations? No, come on. No. They don't believe the Holy Spirit overshadowed Mary. No, they don't. They believe that Elohim came down, God himself came down, physically had relations with her, which is disgustingly stupid. But they think that. Just so you know. And they hold that back from them, right? So all these different things that people they have out there, like, oh, but come on, it's no big deal. They call themselves Christian, right? Talked about it on Friday. So Joe Witnesses they call themselves Christian. I don't know what you call yourself. Satan's going to be like, he loves that game. Oh, we're playing the game of what you call yourself? Oh, a man called himself a woman too? You see where we're at with this now in our society, right? We're already seeing the triptych being given to us that women are calling themselves men calling themselves women. No, you're not. You're not a he, she, he. You are what you are, period, right? And so it speaks to the spiritual thing of folks saying, oh, I'm a believer in God, and they believe in some tree or some rock or some other stupid thing, which, by the way, we're going to see in Revelation 9, God takes issue with and calls it worshiping demons and idols. Because you're not focusing on the one true God who is invisible and not a statue made of silver, gold, wood, or clay, or copper, or bronze, none of that stuff, you idiot. But they think this. Oh, well, that's the God. Oh my God. No, it's not. And Satan is telling them, no, you're good. He gives them a free pass. As the Antichrist, he's like, no, you're good. You're good. Look how Christians say, they're just judging you, man. That's why we're gonna weed them out. Oh, wow, really? Yeah, we're going to weed them out. We're going to shut down all Christian sites. We're going to shut down all congregational worship. We're going to get Bibles and burn them all. That's why you better memorize that word in your heart and in your mind. You better memorize that bad boy. Unless you have a Bible on you, or so much for your app on your phone, that'll be all shut down, I'm sure. Technology will be shut down to a screeching halt. So, hey, good luck charging your phone when everybody who's have electric, they have to have an electric supply to have your phone charged, right? See, how about my phone, my device? It needs electricity, doesn't it? And guess who's going to be controlling the power plants? Demons. So good luck getting that charged. Ha! You know, I'm gonna have a charged battery. Yeah, you got to get it charged somewhere. Come on. What are you, Edison? Something? You can't just create energy out of nowhere. You're not God. So the reality is he's going to eliminate that physical. You can maybe have a physical paper book on you or something you can maybe hold on to, but it's going to be a really hellacious time. So in chapter 6, we find out that the sixth seal opens up. And we also see that now the sixth seal aligns with the first two trumpets revealing to the beast, who is the black horse, who is the lawless one, right? And so, and we're going now into what leads up to chapter 9. So in chapter 6, the sixth seal, what happens there is, we talked before about it, is there's a great earthquake. Every mountain's moved, every island is moved, which means islands like the Caribbean and Puerto Rico and Cuba, gone. Like Crete off of Greece and Sicily, gone. So they're gone. And by the way, maybe even Australia, because you look at Australia, it's basically a continent, obviously, that it is a technical continent, but it's an island. By the way, it's like less than half the size of the smallest continent that's next into it. And it only has about 500 million people there. That's about it. So it's like nothing. It's like less than 1% of the whole population of the whole world.
Hawaii.
I mean, so Hawaii's gone, Guam gone, Philippines gone, right? So every island can be moved. And we have big tsunami waves coming. When an earthquake causes that kind of tsunami wave that can be 100, 300 feet tall, you ain't got a shot as an island of being alive. You're done. So that's why you say every island's being moved. And there's lots of islands out there. So they're going to be gone. What's that? Dominican Republic. Oh, we're a peninsula, Florida, peninsula. But it takes four sides. We have three sides of water. So we're close, but that's the second part. So that's going to be where this other comment comes in, and the other seventh seal when you have also trumpet 3 and 4. So let's get into, first of all, so the sixth seal has this great earthquake. Then it has a meteorite shower that comes along with it. There's a meteorite shower when it says in chapter 6 that these stars fell from heaven. It's like a meteorite shower that's coming. And then with that, the people are going to hide themselves in the mountains and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to hide and build a cave, and it's not going to work. It's going to cave in on them, right? So the first half of tribulation is going to be a one-world government, a one-world currency under the Antichrist as the white and red horse, as the man of sin and as son of destruction. Then at the midpoint, when they kill him and think, oh, we've got it now. Oh, all you did was unleash the beast. Literally, that phrase, unleash the beast, you literally did that. Because not you didn't do that, but God did that through your action and your ignorance, thinking, oh, I got this. No, you don't got this. And now it's going to be bad.
Yeah, the black horse is after he's killed.
Correct. He's killed. He rises up from the dead. He rises up as the black horse, the beast, the lawless one.
Comes back angry.
Yeah, he comes out just overtly like, oh, I'm not going to hide anymore behind the pretense that I'm a nice man giving you false peace. I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm here to kill you. And you will worship me or die.
That's what he starts the persecution.
Oh, yeah, it gets real ugly real fast. And this is where I had to make a correction. I said before that lots of folks die in the first half. Well, not exactly, because that was my misunderstanding of some things. So God likes this 2 billion number, I found out. Because if you start doing 8 billion people, and you start looking at what he said about the pale horse, he said a pale horse kills 1/4 of men. So 1/4 of men of 8 billion is 2 billion, right? And then it says if there's 6 billion left, then it says at that time, we're going to get there in chapter 9, it says the 4 angels of the river Euphrates, they killed 1/3 of men. Well, do 1/3 of 6 billion. Well, you got 2 billion again. So God likes that 2 billion number, by the way. Then in Jehoshaphat, we did the leaders, remember that before, a long time ago, with the help of awesome Jake Thorne. He did the math for us on the leaders of the body, 1.9 liters in the body of blood, based on the distance and width of the Jehoshaphat. 2 billion people roughly. Here we go, we got that 2 billion number again. Which then I then say that I believe the natural disasters, we don't know how many it's going to kill, but I believe the natural disasters of the earthquake, the meteorite shower, the great volcano that erupts, those things, these floodings, these tsunamis, are going to kill 2 billion people. I think the natural disasters alone kill 2 billion. And then Satan directly kills 2 billion. And then the 4 angels of the river Euphrates kill 2 billion. There's 6 billion dead. 2 by God directly by natural disasters, 2 billion. 2 billion by Satan directly as the opponent on the pale horse, as the beast. And then 2 billion also by the 4 angels. That's pretty crazy that 4 angels killed 2 billion. 4 angels, what's that? Until there's 2 billion left on the earth, that's it. So 2 billion are living through this last hellacious time of tribulation. 2 billion live through it. And of those 2 billion, the majority of them are worshiping the beast.
And that's what that war. They're going to be the ones.
There's going to be a war of Gog and Magog at the middle and at the end. The middle one, Satan wins. At the end, Jesus just goes, and he just drops dead, which I want to be there. Go do that again. I missed it. Do it again. It's going to be so awesome to see him just like that eradicate him when he caused so much damage, so much. Just to have God say no, but just to see how all this disastrous landscape of craziness is going on, and him just to go, and just to eliminate him off the landscape is like, are you kidding me right now? You could have done this all along? He's like, yeah, I just waited till now. So you would know to fear and awe me. No, it worked, because I do. My goodness gracious, do I ever. Yeah, so you do before, but even more so when you see that. So then you have the untimely figs we talked about also, and it's just Nancy asked me about this. I mentioned by the way, on Friday, I went through the papers that you sent. I went through all the questions openly on Friday. So because you have that, I go with everybody else has it too. But the untimely figs speak to the spring, or late winter and spring, which is the Adar, which is Purim, which is the midpoint tipping of the cap. That's how you know the sixth seal is in there in chapter 6, verse 13. But also, so to kind of recap again, so when the sixth seal is opened up and the first and second trumpets come up, we know from chapter 7, he then secures people at 144,000 Sumetikoi. At the last part of the chapter, 9 to 17, but the first part of the chapter, he secures 144,000 Jews. There are two distinct groups of those he is securing and sealing. He's going to talk about those again in Revelation 9. But again, they are two groups of people. Jewish people, 144,000 out of 5 million. And then you're going to have 144,000 Sumetikoi out of who knows how many. A lot. Because there's immature ones in sperma. They're all immature ones. And only 144,000 get chosen to become mature ones, and more than that, betrothed bride. But the rest of them, they don't have that. Sorry. So it's a similar concept of out of many comes little. A remnant out of many Jewish people, out of 5 million, 144,000. Dare I say, is it the same? Is there 5 million? I don't know. Immature sperma in that time, and only 144,000 are taken? Maybe. I don't know. But I wouldn't doubt that for a second, knowing that God likes symmetry. That could be definitely true. So the thing here is that if we get to chapter 7, we see that. Chapter 8 then goes into the seventh seal, but they'll go into the trumpets. So to remind us of what the sixth seal is in the first two trumpets, so I'm going to write it on the board later, but okay, sixth seal opens up, and the trumpets 1 and 2 take place with the black horse as the beast. So the sixth seal is the beast, as the black horse, as the lawless one. And so are the first two trumpets. And that means at that time there's a great earthquake, the blood moon happens, which is a lunar eclipse. There's a solar eclipse where the sun gets blotted out, blackened out, right? We know that. Then there's actually hail with fire and blood. Yee. That comes down. These hailstones are 75 to 90 pounds. That'll destroy you if you're in your car, if you're in your house. It's coming through the wall, Jack. It's not gonna protect you. So I got strong windows indoors. Yeah, so what? And I'm gonna throw a 90-pound rock from the sky, picking up steam with fire and blood on it, and you tell me if you can live through that. Yeah, I don't think so. It's gonna break through your roof, Jack. You see trees go through roofs all the time when hurricanes happen. We're gonna get to that a little bit later too, about the chapter 9 gets even. You think this is bad? It gets even worse in chapter 9 about these locusts. It freaks you out, Jack. Oh my gosh. So anyway, sixth seal, first two trumpets, hail, fire mixed with blood, a great earthquake, sun is turned into black because of a solar eclipse, moon turns to blood because of a lunar eclipse, solar and lunar eclipses are happening. It's insane. Then you also have a volcanic eruption. Some volcano erupts, which I don't know where it's going to happen. You're going to have acid rain if it's underwater, I believe. If it then produces that, you got a pyroclasmic cloud that's going to choke you out. You're also going to have a tsunami wave 100, 300 feet tall. It's going to take out so much stuff. I mean, it's so all this destruction happens in the first 60 days of the beast showing his face, and he's chasing after the Jews. Imagine the Jews trying to make. Now you understand why Jesus said, pray in that day that you're not pregnant, not the Sabbath, and it's not winter. Not just because you have to hightail it out of Jerusalem through Ammon, then Moab, then Edom, but while you're doing that, there's a great earthquake. There's a meteor shower. There's a great volcano. There's a hailstorm with fire and blood. You're going to be like trying to dodge bullets everywhere you go. Could you imagine? No, thank you. No, thank you. So Satan's going to get a big assist from God in the natural disasters that make it almost impossible to stay alive. If you're, no wonder he's saying, don't be on the Sabbath or pregnant or on winter. Yeah, because it's going to be hard enough as it is. It's going to be like a gauntlet of like a triathlon through hellacious degrees of people coming against you to prevent you from getting to Petra. It's going to be unbelievable. I can't even. And I wonder if the River Arnon being flooded by Satan has a lot to do, now that I think about it, with the fact that God's giving him a little assist by the natural disasters, creating the easeability for the waters to come in there and flood that river from all the different cataclysmic things happening. Because he's creating some serious
serious. You say climate change? Oh, there'll be climate change in the second half. You're going to see a lot of climate change. You're going to see a volcano eruption of liquid magma on the earth, pyroclasmic cloud, acid rain, an earthquake, the volcano going off, hail coming down, meteorite showers, sun turns blacked out, moons turn to blood. I mean, this is insane. You're seeing all that, and the first 60 days of the second half going, no wonder Jesus said they get like so freaked out they die from stress. Yeah, I would too. I would too. Just him revealing himself as Satan would freak me out. First he's dead, now he's alive, and now I got to deal with all this natural disaster stuff going on around me. I got the world falling apart around me. The ground I'm standing on is shaking and falling apart. If you're in California, there's a great earthquake. I'm sorry, you're gone, right? How can it be a great earthquake on the earth and you don't have the San Andreas Fault being affected by that? Of course it is. And by the way, those who say, oh, what about the rest of the United States, right? What about Yosemite? They also say Old Faithful, given a certain shake and rock, could erupt, and there goes that. There goes that pyroclasmic cloud taking out the middle of the United States of America. Oh, and by the way, the eastern seaboard, that's where the comet comes in, the wormwood. It shoots in the Atlantic Ocean. If it does that, oh, you're done. The eastern seaboard is just consumed in water, gone, all the way through like the middle of the country. So the middle of the country could be taken out by the comet that hits wormwood. It's a comet, it's a great star, it's a comet that comes down. It can create this huge tsunami, take out the whole eastern seaboard, which is our economic engine, gone. The western seaboard would have been taken out by the great earthquake, San Andreas Fault, boom, in the ocean. You got the middle that's left, so much for that, because if that shaking and that rattling of the ground and of the actual foundation of the earth erupts on Yosemite, on good old Faithful, it erupts, we're done. The rest of the middle of the country gets a pyroclasmic cloud fallout. And you know, what about Texas and the bottom south? Well, they're part of the Gulf of Mexico, so much for that flooding. Good luck with that. Because it says the comet also causes rivers and fountains to flood, a third of them. I mean, it's not pretty. I can kind of see the United States being sucked in the water or covered in water, and only a few left to live to tell the tale. So if you're United States of America and you're a person in Christ, you don't have a chance to bear the mark of the beast. You don't have a chance to give your life, because you're going to be dead by natural disasters. I'm just telling you. That's why the United States is not mentioned, because we're gone. It's going to be destroyed.
So Florida would be flooded.
Done. Gone. Gone.
We're too close to
They'd be gone. Florida gone. There's nowhere to hide though. And by the way, the flooding of the rivers and the waters, the Niagara Falls feeds the Lake Superior, which feeds Mississippi River. We can go back in time, back with the 90s, I think it was, where the Mississippi River flooded and caused all kinds of problems throughout the entire, because the Mississippi River goes all the way down to the middle of the country. So all those states, from Illinois to Indiana to Louisiana, who's the other ones? Oklahoma, all those different states that come through there, Mississippi River, it's got Louisiana, you're done. You're done. It's going to flood. There's so much to overcome. There may be, I imagine, little pockets here and there, but I think for the most part, our domestic 48 states are done. You're done. You're gone.
Yeah, I think about that thing that says in 1 hour is thy judgments come. I mean, the United States could go in an hour's time.
Oh, it's done. Yeah, you're talking in less than 3 months. In less than 2-3 months, you took a superpower and relegated it to a third world country. I mean, that's what's going to happen. It's like in less than 90 days. Talk about 90-day probationary period. Oh, hey, pompous, arrogant power. Hey, how you doing now? Can't breathe. That's what I thought. So next, and it's just unbelievable to me that these type of things that are happening in the sixth seal and trumpets 1 and 2. And I'm going to write that on the board about what's going to happen. But I want to go back to again chapter 8 now, as we go back to the review. And in chapter 8, he talks about this other angel and the half-an-hour silence. So the half-an-hour silence again speaks to, we talked about on Friday, about them looking back. You know, a half an hour in there, it's about 20 years here. So which I spoke to on Friday speaks to that 16 years roughly and a half leading up to tribulation. You can see the earmark of the total depravity of an apostasy happening that led to the great apostasy that happens in the first half of tribulation, right? So it's all culminated by that silence of heaven looking back on. Let's take a pause and realize what led us to this point. And what was at stake in those who have died, and let's look at what's a bit more horrifying out ahead. It's like it's just a pause, like in the psalmist, they would say Selah, as in deep breath, and take this in. Or in music, they call it a rest, right? A little line, a rest. You take a rest, you get your breath again, right? That's what heaven's doing. That's what God's doing. He's telling you, this is the midpoint. Take stock in what got us here and what's happened here, and you think that's bad and that was horrible. It's going to get worse than you could ever possibly imagine. If you're one of the 2 billion that lives to see it, God have mercy on your soul. You're going to be tormented about you would not believe. Oh my gosh, it gets real ugly real fast. So then as we're going through here, we now see in chapter 8, the angel now in chapter 8 verse 3, who's standing by the altar with the golden censer. So I think this again is Gabriel who's doing this. The only question I have is Gabriel a chief angel who has access to the holy place, which is potentially optional, or is he a cherubim not referenced as such? Either one I'm fine with, but I think without a doubt that it's Gabriel because of how he describes himself in Luke 1 as attending the altar of the incense, which is the fragrance going up, which is that he's here right here. He's the only angel we know that's denoted as attending the altar with the incense. In Luke 1 he said that's Zechariah, so why wouldn't I think that he's the same one here? And so they don't like change jobs, you know. That's his role and responsibility. Then if he was there, then he's also going to be the one in Revelation. So which aligns with his demarcation of a one God uses to announce things. And I believe he was there to announce to the people, just like he was announcing to the priests, Zechariah, that the new priests in John the Baptist would be the one who would baptize Jesus to carry on the priesthood to him as he fulfilled the Aaronic priesthood on earth and he became the Melchizedek priesthood in heaven. But the reality is that here you have this idea that Jesus is ending his high priest ministry. So in chapter 8 and verse 3, his high priest ministry is over. It's over. That's why he takes the fire in verse 5 of chapter 8, if you remember, and he throws it on the earth. It's like that's his judgment beginning. He's telling you, I'm done interceding. It's over. So if you're part of the people during the second half who's enduring the beast, who's the black horse, the lawless one, the beast as the pale horse, the opponent, and you go, I'm going to pray to God. You can't. There's no way out. I'm going to have my sins forgiven. You should have thought about that because now it's way too late. He's done. He's abdicated the high priest. He's done with that. So much for that. Yikes. The only way out is to die, to believe in him unto death. That's the only way out. There's no prayers. You're like Job. No one's answering your prayers, Jack. You can't pray to God. It's over.
It has its it's upside to it. You're guaranteed it.
If you believe in Christ and give your life, you're guaranteed the heirship. That's the good part. But it's not going to be easy. We're about to find out how easy it's going to be. It's going to be really helpful. That's why that mindset of the good, the bad is, oh my gosh, it's bad. But the good is, oh, I get to be an heir. And then with that mindset, he goes into chapter 9 and describe how hard, how easy it's going to be. It's not, oh my gosh, wait till you get
But
there.
it's easy to die.
Well, no. Wait till you see. Yeah, what's up?
And there will be mature ones during that time, even though there will be a cry out.
So there'll be people in the second half that are mature ones, sumeticoi, are the ones who are helping others to become mature ones who then are giving their lives because they have to be beheaded. But the sumeticoi that are walking around and the Jewish ones in Petra are the only two groups of people that can't be killed. They can't be killed. They're protected by God's seal on them. And it's going to mention that in chapter 9.
Of course, the 144,000 in Petra can't help
That's what
anyone outside of it.
They're stuck in Petra. They can't help anybody. But the ones in Petra in chapter 7 are sealed, as well as the 144,000 Sumeticoi. Those two groups, 144, are both sealed and protected by God in chapter 7. And also in chapter 9, he mentions it again, being sealed. He also mentions the one in chapter 14 that the Sumeticoi are different and how they're sealed. They're sealed different ways, but they're both sealed and protected by God.
And they're the ones leading everybody else.
The Sumeticoi are the ones that the only voice that God has of truth. Now there's those who are of sporos, who are people in Christ that are 100-fold fruit people that are doing the best they can, but they need the help of the Sumeticoi to understand what's going on. So it's not going to be easy to live through all that. And by the way, don't forget, and George Jorge was just saying how it's easy to die. Well, what's going to happen, don't forget, is he's going to, again, capture your loved ones, torment your children, your mom, your dad, your husband, your wife, molest, torture, rape, pillage, to get you to confess, to get you to take the mark of the beast. He's not going to just kill you.
This is the Antichrist.
He's going to make it hellaciously hard for you to do that. What's that?
The Antichrist is
Well, as the beast. The Antichrist is killed at the midpoint. He comes back as the beast. He's called the beast from the midpoint on. He's only called the Antichrist in the first half. He's called the beast in the second half.
So he'll be the one who.
Oh yeah, he's going to be hellaciously evil. He's wicked and mean and evil and just disgusting. We've seen like that movie Sound of Freedom based on a true story. People in this world today, humans have the ideas of taking little girls and then selling them for later on to grow up to be nothing but prostitutes, and other sisters and of their younger sisters and mothers of their daughters and whatever's sell other women down the river. Oh my gosh, they're doing that. How much worse is Satan gonna be? He's got no conscience. We have a conscience and we do that. He has no conscience, so he doesn't give a crap. He's gonna be so much worse than what we see.
And, also, when you're saying that describing the weapon is going to get you to confess, I don't know if you noticed, but in Islam, their book allows them to do that to you, so you can confess Allah is God.
Yeah, they have weird stuff.
They're allowed, their book allows them to torture you in the name of Allah. If it's to save your soul to get you to convert.
That is weird. Yep.
So it's weird that that's
Chad's back here first. Yeah, babe, sorry. Yeah, babe?
Pam said, does wormwood affect any
I
other
can't hear you, babe.
countries? Pam said, does wormwood affect any other countries? Tracy said, silence is only in heaven. And which heaven is this third heaven?
The heaven is a silence in the third heaven, and actually God's throne room itself, there's a silence of a somberness of looking back. And as far as it affecting other countries, it's going to affect other countries, no doubt about it, because a third of the trees are killed, a third of the grass, a third of the sea, and you have a third of the trees are in. And then, remember, these the countries, the top 5 countries where there's trees, and a third of them, which is 1 trillion, because there's 3 trillion trees in the world, and the ones that are the most amount of trees. So the countries that will suffer the most amount of destruction, based on God's statement of grass and trees and sea, the five top countries that will endure the most destruction are Russia, China, Brazil, which again, that's Asia, right? And Europe. Russia's in Europe and Asia. So you have Europe and Asia, that's 2 continents. You have North America, United States, but you have Russia, China, Brazil, the Amazon, which is Africa, right? And then the United States of America. So you have Europe, Asia, North America, and Africa, and South America. You have 5 continents affected by the natural disasters. Not just the United States. I'm just pointing out the United States because the idea for me that I see in Scripture is that the body of water we have on the earth is the Atlantic and the Pacific. And if you hit either one of those, we're in the middle of both of those, right? We're in the middle. So the Pacific's on our west, the Atlantic's on our east. Either way you hit with that comet, by the way, the earth, is 70% water? So when a comet hits, it has a greater chance of hitting water than it does land. And I believe more than anything else, it's going to hit water. And when it does hit water, because there's a 70% chance that it will, it's going to hit Pacific or Atlantic. Those are the 2 biggest bodies of water, right? And when it does hit that, we're in the middle of those 2 biggest bodies of water. So the probability of chance and just of odds are in favor of it hitting water. Number 2, hitting those 2 big bodies of water. And number 3, then causing a tsunami wave that would engulf us. And if it hits the Atlantic, we're definitely done. If it hits the Pacific, we may have the eastern seaboard to still live and tell about it. I don't find that to be plausible. I think the eastern seaboard has to go because of the economic engine of our country is in New York. We saw what 9/11 did to us. It just crippled us for a couple of days, right? So we saw that. So I think that Muslims know that, and you're going to have the Antichrist as the beast trying to come after us. But the reality is I don't think he'll need to, and God's going to just eliminate us off the equation. So that's the answer. That's why I'm thinking it. Yes, sorry.
The Semitic do suffer heat and thirst and hunger, according to the end of Revelation 7. And, as far as the dwelling and all that horrible thing of the horse, that was a problem in the Old Testament. I can't remember just where it was, but it talked about the way getting over to whoredoms.
Yeah, they're going to be.
It's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, women, they say it's the oldest profession, prostitution, but people just, and that all came from Satan, what he did with Eve. People say, why is it important to know that truth about Satan and Eve and Cain? Because you see how Satan used the beautiful gift of sex and marriage, and he uses, now women are objectified by men. They demoralize themselves, think all they are is nothing but a physical piece of meat to men. That's not true. They sell themselves. Why do you do that? And then people pervert that from a parental standpoint, from a dating standpoint. And so Satan's like, well, I got you. Just from that one act, he's destroyed a woman, a man, and a marriage. It's polluted with his evil. He's a jerk. He knew exactly what he was doing. He's at the core of what just demoralizes and rips our soul out. Nothing more traumatizing than that type of thing in your life. And he did it to Eve at the very beginning. So all this sexual immorality in our world, it came from that act that just infected us like a disease. We are so disgusting as people. We just take that to a higher level. Yes, babe, sorry.
Excuse me. Tracy said, Amazon is South America.
No, the Amazon in Africa, as in the Congo, sorry, the Congo.
No, she said that before. Amazon in South America, Nile is Africa.
I meant Africa, sorry, as in the Congo.
Yeah.
The
And then
Amazon River
Jim
is in the
said
Congo.
Nile Valley is Africa. And Tracy said, well, she just said a smiley face to Jim.
Yeah. So, so as we're looking at these things that are happening from the first and second, we also talked about the numbers of what's happening here. We talked about how there's a third of the grass, third of the trees, third of the sea is turning into blood, a third of the sea life, again, ends up dead. So again, 1 trillion trees dead, 725,000 sea creatures floating on the oceans. Just imagine that. That's a lot of fish just floating, big and small and in between, just floating around dead, because fish float when they die, right? So and by the way, as you're thinking about this, what does dead humans and animals and infectious water supply do? Does it create a healthy environment? No. It creates pestilences, pandemics, major diseases, as in Black Plague, as in other things. You don't live healthy when dead bodies just sit around and not get buried as they germinate that disease from human and animals, and then the waters are infected. And this is why God says there's pestilences in the last day. Well, no kidding. Of course, you don't have time to bury a dead one when you're trying to live yourself from the threat of being murdered and hunted down by demons. Much as you want to respect human life, I ain't got time. Sorry. They're after me. Sorry for that deer and that dog and that cat and that bear and those 10,000 humans, but there's a demon running after you right now, and I gotta go. So, you don't have time to bury. Let's say a prayer now. You don't have time for all that. You're running for your life. And these pestilences are everywhere. There's just disease everywhere. You can imagine living. I couldn't imagine living like that. I couldn't even imagine it. And it's just, I don't know. It's just so, just having that smell of that rigor mortis. Ugh. Everywhere that's. And by the way, if you ever smelled, I have smelled. It's not a good smell, right? So it's not good. So imagine everywhere you go, you have that smell. I've been into houses before where a person I'd say, hey, when's the last? They would say to me, I sit, and this is not meant to be kind of a light humor, but it's true. I was talking to a person, and I said, do you sit in that chair all the time? And they said, yeah, they were a bigger person, and they couldn't get up. I said, well, how do you go to the bathroom? And they go, I just did. What? And then I knew why the smell that I smelled was like it was. I smelled a urine, fecal smell, and now this verified why I'm smelling that. So I feel sad for that person, that their in-house nurse person is not there enough or can't lift them, and they were just imagine that smell and that house. I'm thinking about that smell times 100 million times worse, because it's throughout the whole world. Not in the four walls, in the whole world. There's that smell of that rigor mortis, that urine, that fecal matter. Because when you die, what happens when you die? You urinate and you fecal matter, right? You just poop yourself. I'm not trying to get gross. I'm just trying to get practical in your mind. The stench of the earth is representing the spiritual stench of demons spiritually running amok is going to be literally palpable in the stench of death. The stench of death everywhere you go. I'm not trying to be gross here. I'm just telling you. The stench of death of humans and animals and sea life. And by the way, when we had tuna fish on Friday, I still smell it in the garbage that I put in even though the garbage is in the garage already, the scent of it from the kitchen garbage, I took it out already, is still permeating a little bit. The fish we had, the grouper we had on Saturday, the grouper we had on the plate that I washed off, put in the dishwasher, I still smell that in the dishwasher. And that's just eating regular fish. I mean, I can imagine dead fish by the 725. You go near water and that wind blows in, oh! I can only imagine the stench. It's so disgusting. This is what you have to deal with, and the pestilence and the disease that comes from that. And by the way, when that happens, what else happens when you have diseases? What else happens when you have overflooding? Don't insects and other critters come out of the water? When it floods around you, when it rains heavy in our house, you know what we find outside? I hear a lot of? I hear ribbit, frogs. Constantly I hear frogs. And by the way, what else comes when you have dead carry-on fish? What else comes after that? You have flies, don't you? Sure do. You sure do. You have maggots and flies, don't you? Okay. And then what else happens? You have pestilence. So pestilence causes up. And by the way, does this ring a bell to you? I just mentioned it should bring it back to you. Like, wait a minute. God said a third of the water is turning to blood. That's This is the 10 plagues of Egypt. Water turns to blood. Then there's frogs. Shut up. Which happens from overflooding, right? And God flooding the earth. He is doing the 10 plagues all over again in Revelation. And it ain't funny. And this time he's saying, let my people alone. Not let them go, because they're going to die. Let them alone, right? Right? So there's blood, there's frogs, remember that? And then there's lice, and there's dog flies. You know, that's what he says in the plagues. Then there's a pestilence, then there's ulcers, then there's hail, then there's the locusts, then there's darkness, then there's death. These are the same things you see in Revelation. What a coincidence.
Just gotta take it back and
Yeah, and God told, so that tells you that Egypt is another, we know in Scripture, Egypt's a type of the world. And now you see it again in fruition and Revelation. What he did there, he's doing to the whole world, the whole habitable. Oh, he ain't playing around. But in this time, it didn't happen over a year's time. It happened in a condensed period of time, like within a couple of months. Holy moly. And he is, and with those pestilences and with all those plagues, he is also introducing natural disasters. And he's also introducing demonic reign and presence. And he's also shortening the earth's rotation and making days darker. And he's also, having his wrath himself poured out. As he says, he calls it the wrath of the Lamb. That scares the bejeebies out of people in chapter 6. They're more scared of the wrath of the Lamb than they were of the natural disasters. Because they know where it's coming from. Because they know Satan can't cause natural disasters. So when the beast comes into fruition, he comes into view, raises up, he kills Moses and Elijah, he kills them, remember, they're the two witnesses in the first half. He kills them, and they're not afraid of him as much as they are of God. Because they know, because in Revelation chapter 6, who's the one who gives the power to the white horse? Jesus. It says he gave him the power. Jesus gave him the power. He gave him that. He has none without Jesus giving that to him to do what he's about to do. He's the one that basically turned on the switch and goes, okay, now, have your day. Because it's a tick-tock. Tick-tock. Go ahead. Okay. And he got, like he did with Job. Here, consider my servant Job. Like he did with Peter. He took Peter, Satan has asked to sift you like wheat. Just so you know, after you're sifted, when you're restored, strengthen your brother. What? Wait. Satan talked with you about sifting me and you said it was okay? Well, yeah. Like what? Imagine Job saying, why'd you mention me? And why'd you say to go after me? I don't know. See, both guys didn't have a chance in that conversation, did they? Did Peter or Job get a vote? No. They were told after the decision was already made what God did with Satan. Like, thanks a lot for that. Like, geez, Pete, God's telling you he has the power to unleash him on whoever he wants, when he wants, on how he wants. And God's telling you in Revelation and Tribulation, he's unleashing the Antichrist to have his power on the earth. But he knows the first 3.5 years is covertly being done, where he's establishing a one world government and a one world currency for control and influence. And then at the midpoint, and in the middle of that first half, then the one world religion, and then he starts doing some death and carnage, hunting down these mature ones, and then they realize they got to take him out. And they kill him, and he rises up as the beast, and then it's hellacious. Right? So then in chapter 8, we're picking up the context here, all these natural disasters. The third of the trees, there's 3 trillion, that means 1 trillion are gone. The sea life talks about that. A third of the rivers are going to be gone too. Then he says also in a third of the ships, which is 20,000 ships, not these little tiny tugboats, again, these battleship cruisers, 20,000 of them gone. Then in chapter 8, verse 10, the great star burning as a torch. That's a comet screeching to earth, which is where it's going to come in. This is going to be at the pale horse. This is the pale horse. So when you see the third trumpet come in, that's the beast as now the pale horse as the opponent. That's Satan being now screeching to earth as saying, oh, now I'm going to declare myself as God, as the opponent. I'm not going to anymore see myself as just the beast, the lawless one. I'm here not just to be lawless. I'm here to be the opponent who demands worship, who declares himself God. And he does that, and that's what it represents. And then he falls on the third of the rivers and the waters in chapter 8, verse 10. The bitterness, by the way, if you go back to Exodus, we talk about the waters at Mamre. They were bitter because of why? Because of their unbelief. Bitterness, wormwood means bitterness. It's tied into God's people who did not continue on in belief. So this bitterness, I believe, speaks to the people that are going to be in Christ, the great apostasy. Those that are left alive, part of that apostasy, are going to be bitter and angry. how could you do this? Oh, you don't have the bride endure wrath. He didn't. He took her out. But they think they're the bride. Uh-oh. They're bitter now. I'm not the bride. Sorry. They're bitter. They're angry. Imagine how, remember, Leah felt hated, it says in Scripture, slighted, felt less than. No woman likes it. No person likes it when you're slighted for someone else. Don't tell me you don't feel good about that. You don't feel good about that. You feel slighted. You feel bitter, maybe, right? They feel bitter because they did not believe what God said to be true. And instead of owning it as an accountable person, they deflected upon God. And God's showing you that Satan is going to take that and really harness that mentality. The bitterness is the reason why and how, like Esau, with the root of bitterness getting in him, it took away their joy. And this is why they took the mark of the beast. Because they're so bitter. They figure, well, God's not going to provide for me. He's not going to help. I'm going to take the mark. They're going to be justified by God is fighting for them through the mark of the beast. Or they're going to be bitter enough to just go against God rebelliously and take the mark of the beast. I'll provide for myself. I'll do what's in my best interest. Okay. So I'm just telling you, this bitterness plays a role in these people's lives. Because again, it doesn't speak to those who don't know God. It speaks to those who do know God. And become bitter because their unbelief of not continually believing, and they feel abandoned.
So they turn their back on God.
Turn their back on God. It's a sad thing. Then the fourth angel in chapter 8 sounds his trumpet, and that's where you have the third of the sun and the moon being scarred. And now you go for 24-hour days, 16-hour days. He slows the rotation down, as we talked about. And then the eagle starts flying in mid-heaven in verse 13, saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." And there's 3 woes left, right? There's 3 what left, but 3 big gigantic woes that ain't funny at all. They get really hellacious in chapter 8, verse 13.
That's supposed to be the eagle.
The eagle represents like a chief angel. We saw it also in chapter 14, and in chapter 19 there's birds. There's an angel flying in chapter 14 in the mid-heavens. There's also birds flying in the mid-heavens in chapter 19. But this particular eagle, I again hold to, it's a chief angel. Maybe it could be the personal angel of Jesus, or it could be just another chief angel who's flying around just pronouncing there is 3 big woes. What you're about to see coming is going to make what you just saw pale in comparison. As if that scared you, if that rattled you, if those 4 billion that just died, it was a hard thing to take in, or 2 billion that just died. That's what disaster is. Those 2 billion, there's going to be 4 billion dying from demonic direct influence from Satan and the 4 angels in the river Euphrates. Those 2 combined will kill 4 billion.
So it's a particular angel. It's not like all the other ones.
Yeah, it's one particular angel who's, I believe, calling out, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's described as an eagle because he's flying high above. Because eagles fly the highest. You can't fly higher. This is the highest altitude a bird can fly as eagle. So it's ascending high. To me, it means the chief of those angels. I don't think it's Jesus saying this. I think it's a chief angel. And it could be, I don't think it's Gabriel because he's attending the altar. So it's not him. It could be Michael the archangel, possibly. Because he's later on is disclosed as the chief angel who fights Satan and kicks him out with the armies. So if I was to pick somebody, it'd probably be him, Michael the archangel, and this description as the eagle, because he seems to be that chief one from the heavens who cast Satan out. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
And which horse is the abomination of desolation?
That's the pale horse. That's the opponent. Yeah, babe.
Pam said, are these ships only literal ships, or are they a type of something spiritual?
So everything has a type of spirituality. To your point, grass is the representing of those Jews, and the trees representing those mature ones. The waters, obviously, God's word being purged. The ships are the conduits, which are the remainder of the ships. Think about it, a ship is bearing cargo; it transports you, and so I think those are the congregational structures, the buildings of Christianity, like just being destroyed. I think that spiritually speaks to that, because the ship is what bears cargo and transports you, and that's what congregations, buildings that bear the name Jesus, or Christian buildings, not Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, but denominations of Christianity. I think those are going to be experiencing a large-scale destruction. So all these big structures. Imagine, I know we've been to Jamestown, and I haven't been to Notre Dame and seen that. But we've been to Jamestown and seen our Eastern Seaboard, and the early church fathers, our early fathers that came here and established our country with this really gaudy stained glass and big wood and oak and all this kind of stuff. Just imagine those people, this being leveled, being taken off the landscape. Those things are in Philadelphia and Massachusetts, those big, gaudy, old, referenced of long ago established congregation buildings of Christianity. Imagine those being leveled that are over in England like that, right? There's a lot in England like that, and in Germany like that, right? England and Germany have a ton of that stuff, and imagine them as being leveled. All those great, ridiculously gaudy architectures with stained glass and big rocks and big oaks, pulpits and pews just being leveled. So I think that speaks, because I think that's how people are transported and bear the weight of their walk in Christ, was they go into this building, and those buildings where they get transported to this sense of, from their sinful life to thinking spiritually, and they bear their weight and their burdens there with each other. Those buildings, I think, will speak into the ships, speaks of that spiritual reference. I think that. So there'll be no more buildings to have safe harboring, if you will. There'll be some, but the majority of them will be gone. Those big, and then because you think about Europe, and I think about Europe and Asia and Germany, where that's at in Asia. I think it's going to have, or Germany's in Europe actually. I think it's right. Germany's Europe, isn't it? Yeah. So so I'm just thinking about how there's going to be just a pummeling of those old art, historic, rustic buildings just being pummeled, which I think Satan's going to take great joy in that. He's such a jerk. So then as we get to chapter 9, now it's different. So chapter 9 gets real different real quick, and he says that now he says that there's a fifth angel, and he sounds the trumpet. So we have the first 4 trumpets done, and now we have trumpets 5 and 6 being talked about in chapter 9. And it gets real ugly, even worse than you already saw. What you already saw and heard John talk about. Now he says, I saw the fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star having fallen from the heaven to earth. Let's think about, so here's what you first have to come in conclusion from. There's 3 schools of thought on this. When you read it, you first think, oh, it's just an angelic sense of spiritual, or it's some kind of a celestial activity. That's number 1. Number 2, people go back to verse 10 of chapter 8 and go, oh, it's the same as the great star. No, it's not, because in chapter 9, verse 1, this star had fallen, and it's not described as a torch, a great burning. It's not a great star, not a burning torch. So it's described differently. It's not a great star, and it's not a burning torch. It's a star. So I, again, will tell you it's not the same thing. The chapter 8, verse 10 is a comet. That represents Satan himself. Whereas this one is not that. It's a representation of a demon as part of chapter 6. Go back to chapter 6 to remind you. In chapter 6, in verse 13, and the stars of the heaven fell to earth. That's what we talked before about that meteorite shower physically. Spiritually represents the demons who are falling, being cast to earth. So this particular star falling is a chief demon who is actually given keys by Jesus. Given keys, because Jesus told you in Revelation 1:18, he has the keys of death and Hades. And now we have this person, this great star, this is not a great star, but a star, having fallen, and he was given the key of the pit of the abyss. Yes?
Lainey said these events will only be real to those going through them, and those closer to the cataclysmic events. There will be no news at all to reveal what is happening in other parts of the world.
Yeah, imagine, communication being shut off, texting messages gone, video, audio, radio gone, just gone. You have no way to communicate with anybody. I guess you can do those old CB ham radios, what they call it, was the analog. You can do that. That doesn't need cell towers and all that stuff. So that's why some folks today are preparing for end of the world stuff by using analog and that CB radio stuff and walkie-talkies. I guess those could work to some degree, but you don't have that's not in long distances though. You can't go from like Asia to Europe. You have to be like within some proximity to be talking to somebody, I would imagine. I don't know how that works, but I think it's just an amazing limiting of communication will be the case. There'll be a lot. Right now, I can't even grasp my mind around how far we've come in technology, how we communicate so instantly. And how about you? How many times did someone say to you, I'm going to send you an email, I just sent it, and you wait like 10 seconds, I don't have it. Oh, I do that. And then they go, it should be there by now. 5 minutes later, I don't have it. And we're so spoiled by instantaneous, technology. I can't imagine, we're so ingrained with, hey, give me a call, hey, give me a text, hey, and then we go from that instantaneous, our mind's been conditioned to now go into like a Stone Age. of like no technology that's able to work, how would you communicate? I don't even, for example, to show you the shock and awe to your brain, try to remember a person's phone number without looking at your phone. Because back in the day, I could tell you, or you could tell somebody, you could tell your 3 best friends' phone numbers, or your family members' phone numbers off the top of your head. But right now, you don't know them, do you? I don't know your guys' phone numbers because they're in my phone. I just push your name. That's how lazy our brains become, right? That's how our technology has cost us that sense of recalling that. So how are we going to just automatically go back to what it's like to live in an analog Stone Age world of no technology? We've relied so much on it, when it's taken from us, it's going to cripple us in our ability to communicate. That's what I'm saying. I feel, that's why some people say when they were asked, what makes you panic the most? Your car stalling with no gas in the middle of the highway, your loved one being told they're in a situation you have to rush to in the hospital, or losing your phone. Losing your phone was number one. Are you serious? They get more stressed out losing because all their information's in their phone. All they know and believe is in their email, their text message, their videos, their pictures, all is in their phone. So they get everything in their phone, you know? So it's amazing how technology, my point is, it has crippled us to make us so dependent upon it that God is going to use Satan to take that from us and say, how are you going to communicate when you're so used to that world that you're no longer in? It doesn't sound as easy as it looks. I'm telling you, it doesn't. It just doesn't. And those who live in Florida know that life. When a hurricane hits and we're out of electricity for 2 weeks, how much do we start crying the blues about no AC? It takes me like 1 day. I mean, I don't like it. I can't imagine no technology, which also means no AC, which means no flowing water. How can you go to the bathroom, by the way? Think about that. You're back in colonial days now at that point. Looking for a hole in the ground. Ugh. You're looking for like, and there's no AC, and that stickiness and that nasty smell, it ain't gonna get better. I'm just telling you, how much for perfume and cologne, you're gonna smell pretty nasty. Yeah.
I was wondering if a lot of people are gonna die, how would Satan then fight torture and make this like?
Okay, so to your.
Because like really like, can I really think I'm gonna see my
So to your point. So there's first half tribulation. There's gonna be some that die. I don't know how many, but not as many as from the midpoint on. So at the midpoint on, 2 billion die from natural disaster. Satan then comes after and kills 2 billion more. I know that because in Revelation 6, the pale horse has a power to kill 1/4 of men. 1/4 of 8 billion is 2 billion. And then he says after that, when they're gone, there's 6 billion left. And he says 4 angels over the Euphrates, they kill 1/3 of men. And 1/3 of 6 billion is also 2 billion. So then there's 2 billion that live. So if 2 billion die from natural disaster, 2 billion from Satan directly, and 2 billion from the 4 angels over the Euphrates, well, that's 6 out of 8 billion. So 2 billion are left. So of the 2 billion, to your point, will those 2 billion be related to you? Will some of them be your loved ones? I don't know, but to your point, there's odds on favor that they won't be, you know? But
just be a lot of people.
But imagine this, if I didn't know the person, if he captures a little kid, a boy or a girl, whether I know them or not, I don't care if they're black or brown or white, you start torturing them, that's gonna affect me. I don't wanna see that. I don't care if I know them or not personally. It's a child, for crying out loud. I don't want you to do that to a child, or a woman, or a young girl. I don't want that. I don't care if I know you or not. You're still gonna demoralize me. It's gonna demoralize my mental state of strength to say, I won't take your mark. I gotta endure that, watching that. Whether I know them or not, it's gonna, I mean, if you have any heart at all, these are people that know Jesus. These aren't folks that don't know Jesus. These are folks that know Jesus. He's gonna do this type of torture on. So they should have and are gonna have a heart for clemency toward people and compassion, right? Even if you just know the Word of God, you're gonna have that sense of compassion. So you can't just sit there and watch a child, a young woman, a person just be tormented. You're gonna, whether you know them or not, stop, man, stop. It just makes it worse when you do know them. I think that, I hope that answers your question. So it's worse if you do know the person, but I think either way, it's horrible. Either way, it's horrible. I don't want to see that. I don't want to put in that situation. And then so, and I'm not, there's no one in Scripture where he says he's going to do that. I'm just imagining what Satan's doing now through the evils of man. He is doing that, through the evils of man, exploiting women and children, and through sexual objectification, slavery, all this different sex trafficking. He's doing this now. And he did it from the beginning of Garden of Eden with selling Eve down the river and then bastardizing sexual relations and pornography. So I think because he's specialized in pornography from day one, and he's amplified it in this day and age, I don't see him stopping that in tribulation. I see him upping the ante even more. and saying, I've been about this from day one, I've been about this, polluting your mind with pornographic thoughts. So why would I not just want to molest and rape people in front of you before you take the mark? Why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't he do that? He did it, his angels did it, so why wouldn't he do it again? I don't see why he wouldn't. I don't know any evidence that he would do that, but I have no proof that he wouldn't either. And his attitudes and his behaviors and his indications of how he first began to come against us was under that idea of polluting us physically, to make us impure sexually, to make us impure in our thoughts and in our person. And so we just demoralize ourselves and devalue ourselves and objectify each other. And he did, although it plays into his hands, is all it does. Plays into his hands, you know? So some women can't stand men because the men have wronged them. And some men can't see women as more valuable. They just objectify them as misogynist people. So we both have this problem. Both genders have this issue, all caused by this dillweed named Satan. He's a jerk. He is very good at what he did. He sowed a seed of discord in the very core of what makes us human. We have to rely on God to have some faith in each other. We have some love in each other. We can't have love in each other unless we have faith and love in God. But he has this wedge there that he's put from the beginning of Eden. I'm just telling you, it's not easy to deal with that stuff. I think he's going to just amplify. So, Revelation chapter 9, he gives this chief angel, the keys, this demonic angel. So the angel sounds his trumpet, that's God's angel. Then the star falling is a demon, that he gives the key of the pit of the abyss to. Which differently in Revelation 20 verse 1, there is God's angel who has the key on a chain. If you read Revelation 20 verse 1, some would say here this angel is a good angel. No. So if you read 20 verse 1, that's a good angel there. Where it says, I saw an angel coming down from heaven having the key of the abyss and a great chain on his hand. Okay? That is Revelation 20 verse 1. And we also know from Revelation 1:18, Jesus said, I have the keys of death and Hades. He said that. So Jesus has the key of death and Hades, Revelation 1:18. He gives the key to the abyss with a great chain to an angel in Revelation 20 verse 1. But here, he gives the key to the pit of the abyss to this angel, this one who fell, which is not a good angel. That's a bad angel. If you're talking about a star that fell, that's a fallen angel. Okay, it's not good. So this is a bad angel. So they say, well, how can it be a bad angel? Jesus gave the key to the pit of the abyss. Well, he also gave Antichrist, the white horse, the power to conquer. Did he not? Yes. So this isn't the first time we see Jesus giving evil a power to do something over that which is good. He gave Satan, the evil one, power over those in Christ that were good, if you will, in him, to be killed and punished and tormented and all kinds of stuff. So in verse 2 of chapter 9, he opened the pit. This is the fallen star, this demonic fallen angel. He opens the pit of the abyss, and a smoke ascends out of the pit. And watch this now. So there's a smoke of a great furnace. Remember the great furnace. The furnace is mentioned earlier in the book of Revelation, speaking of Jesus' feet glowing as from a furnace. So he's giving you the idea that for lake of fire is in view. He doesn't say lake of fire, but it sure is inferred. He said the smoke is out of the great furnace, which is a big fire, a great fire. And the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke of the pit. Now here's what you have to understand about this. So it says the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke of the pit. All you gotta do is I started thinking about myself, wait a minute, smoke and it darkened the sun and the air. Then I started looking up smoke and the density of smoke. The density of smoke rises up about 20,000 feet in the air, and it can block out the visibility of the sun, which is why if you go to California or see these different things that happened recently in our country and in our world, I think it was at Lebanon or Libya, there was a fire over there, there was a fire also in California, wildfires all the time, and you can't even see the sun. Even in daylight, it's just this big smog, right? And this smoke, this density of the smoke, that's how much smoke came out of this abyss. Could you imagine how much smoke it has to be to make the air and sun of the whole world get darkened out? I mean, you saw how much trees had to burn to have California not see the sky. We're talking about the whole world. So that's a big deal, man. That's a lot of smoke, Jack. That's a lot. That's a lot of smoke. That's a lot of smoke. A lot. So he's talking about a lot of smoke, this dense cloud, Why is that important to understand? That he says it, remember, so he says in chapter 9, verse 2, that this smoke that came up, it darkened the sun and the air. And the air. That means you are breathing in this smut, which means you're coughing. You're like, oh, I can't even breathe, right? Because it's dense. It's a dense smoke. Now, here's where he says, not vapor, smoke. Then he goes into verse 3. Here's where it gets really crazy insane. These locusts are physical, but also represent demonic things spiritual. So they're two things. They are physical locusts, but they are also demonic beings. They are both. You don't know that when you first read it, but you will know it when you keep reading the chapter. So you know it at first as physical locusts, then you start realizing, oh, they're that and represent demonic people that you see now come into view when the four angels of the river Euphrates come out. They start picturing themselves as demons as well. But let's go to chapter 9, verse 3 and read, from the smoke went out locusts on the earth, and they were given power. Now, so I look up locusts, and guess what I found? Guess what the average life of a locust is? Up to 5 months. Does that sound familiar to you? Sure does! Because it says they will torment men for 5 months. Shut your mouth. And then it says things about them that you're going to be freaked out about. Because I know I was. It freaked me out. I know this, but when you study it, boy, is it freaky. So it says that they have power as the scorpions of the earth have power. So what does a scorpion do? A scorpion is in a defensive posture, ready to strike. And a scorpion is known as a symbol of power and patience and determination. You know the old story, everybody's heard it, I'm sure, in your life, where the scorpion says to the frog, hey, help me across the river. I promise you I won't sting you. If I did that, we'd both die, because you'd sink and I'd die too. And the frog said, okay, climb on. So the frog had the scorpion climb on his back, halfway across the lake, the scorpion, he stings him. He said, why'd you do that? Now we're both gonna die. He said, well, that's what I do. Oh, that's nice. So that's what the scorpions just are in a defensive posture all the time. That's what they do. They just sting you. They don't care what the consequences are. They just sting you. Oh, by the way, what type of scorpion sting? Does a scorpion kill you when it stings you? No. But some. But they don't kill you. There's some unique situations. But the majority of people say no. What happens is the sting lasts 24 hours. The pain lasts 24 hours. The numbness lasts another 24 hours. Up to 3 days potentially. Okay? So you have a pain for 24 hours and a numbness after that. So 48 hours minimum, maybe 3 days of where you feel where you just got bit. These locusts are going to have that feeling that you're going to, so just so you know, if they sting you, you're going to feel the pain for 24 hours, and another 24 after that, you're going to still feel a numbness or a tingling where that bite took place. What else is interesting about a scorpion? I didn't know this, by the way, but guess this. Did you know that scorpions can do, guess what? They glow in the dark. Say what? So now, if you have the sky being darkened by the smoke of the pit rising up, and it darkens out the sun in the air, and you see a locust coming at you, they're going to glow. You're going to see an embering glow, like, ah! That's going to freak you out. I don't know, but it will me. And by the way, speaking of locusts and how they swarm, I'm glad you asked that question. So they swarm up to 80 million. I looked that up. That was like, say what? Up to 80 million. They swarm up to that size. 80 million, right? Then I wanted to know, okay, how fast do they fly? Oh, I don't know, 27 miles an hour. No, 21 miles an hour. 21 miles an hour. The fastest human has run 27 miles an hour. Rare humans can run 20 and more. The average human runs 8 miles an hour. So when you talk about locusts flying at 21 miles an hour and the average human runs 8, you're not running that thing. Now, if you're Edwin Moses, Carl Lewis, if you're like, Tyreek Hill from the Dolphins, if you're like one of these fast people in athletics, then sure, yeah, you're Usain Bolt, yeah, you can outrun it. Okay, let's get real. But most humans are not able to do that. Locusts will hunt you, will run you down and sting you. You can't outrun them. Let's get that real right now. They're about 4 inches in length. They grow to. And by the way, they can travel 100 miles in one day. Shut up. 1 day. 1 day. They can travel 100 miles. 1 day. That's a lot. So, and then it says they can fly for 15 hours without stopping. Just, how you doing? It's crazy. And then I thought, okay, well, how many square miles does this swarm encompass, this 80 million they can get up to? How many square miles? Then I thought, I want to look up how many square miles. It says 2,000 square miles, which, by the way, would encompass the city of Chicago 4 times over. And you're welcome. It would cover half of Central Florida. Just so you know, Central Florida, the middle of Florida, is about 4,000 square miles. So this swarm of locusts would cover half of our state in the middle if it came at us like that. Just putting that out there. Just to give scale for how ridiculous this is. So they're glowing in the dark, okay? They're waiting to strike. It's like a scorpion. They're waiting to strike, and they're going to do it and say, "That's what I'm supposed to do," like the frog and the scorpion story. So that's what I do. I'm not going to wait and then just not. I'm waiting just to bite you. Why'd you bite me? Because I do. That's what I do. I'm made to do that. That's what God made me to do. So okay. So then in verse 4, then it says, "And it should be said to them, they should not injure the grass," which is representing the Jewish remnant of people in Petra, "and they should not any green thing nor any tree." So he's speaking here of these people that are of the mature ones, the Mesumedikoi people. He's not going to any green thing or any tree. I think the green thing are those that are being, if you will, converted to understand sperma things, and the trees are these Mesumedikoi people. But it's interesting here. He says, "But the men who shall not have but the men who have not the seal on their foreheads, it is said to them, you should not kill them." So okay, so you can't kill these people, but you can definitely injure them. You can torment them. It says in verse 5 that they shall be tormented. Well, that doesn't sound pleasant at all. Well, that's gonna suck. Oh, by the way, imagine a locust biting you, and that bite lasts. And they're tormenting you for 5 months. You get bit, feel it for a day. The next day you still feel numbing and tingling. Before that one bite goes away, another one bites you, and then so on and so on and so on. That is just aggravating. Okay, it's aggravating. I don't know about you, but I've been out in the yard many times in Florida when it gets humid in the summer. Mosquitoes are all around the place. You're just always smacking yourself in the face. That's irritating. Those are tiny mosquitoes. A 4-inch locust, which about, I beg you guess, by 4 inches locust, with the hair of a woman, it says, by the way. And it says the hair of a woman, and that means it has long hair. And by the way, that means that the neck, I looked this up, the neck of a locust is what changes its direction, not its wings. Its wings just make it fly. But the direction it flies is based on its neck. It goes like this. So its neck, when it moves, it goes east or west or whatever, right? So that means if its hair, by the way, they have microscopic hair on their head. It's just used to help them know how fast they're flowing. So the fact that it has women's hair, that means that when they turn their hair, that you can, in other words, you're going to see this glow. You're going to see when they turn over to the next, this little hair flowing, which is just, for me, it reminds me of Superman's cape. Superman flying is kind of cool when you saw it as a kid. But let's face it, we all wanted a cape, right? Because it just kind of augmented the whole awesomeness of Superman. So imagine when the hair is flying, it's like a cape almost on them. It flies like this to the side a little bit. When they turn directions, you're going to see that little hair going like this. How could you not see that? If they have long hair and they turn their neck, it's going to go flying like that. So when you see that, an 80 million view of that, and they're all glowing in the dark, tell me I'm not going to freak out about that. That's going to freak me out. I mean, like, it's going to look like a bunch of super locusts coming at you. It is. That's what's going to happen. And then you go on and read about this, what he says they're going to do. That they're going to torment for 5 months. And their torment was the torment of a scorpion when it stings a man. So again, I mentioned that to you. Now watch how the scorpion stinging a man again. 24 hours, pain, and then another 24 hours of numbing and tingling. Up to 3 days of that from the scorpion bite. Then it says in verse 6, you're going to, in those days, men will seek death. That means you're going to look strong for it, and you won't be able to find it. Because, and it says you'll look strong for it, and I love this, it says they'll desire to die. That word desire is the word we use for inordinate desires. Like you say, oh, I lust after that woman. I lust after that man. I lust after that drink, that food, that trip I'm going to go on, that thing I want to buy next. They are longing and desiring to die. And that's like, whoop, there you go, whoop, there you go. What do you mean? What? I want to die, man. And God's like, not going to have it. I'm not going to let you. Are you serious right now? No, 5 months of torment. That's what it takes. What, 5 months? That's not long. It is long when you got a swarm of 80 million, up to 80 million locusts coming at you, and they all just bite you. And each time they bite you, that sting lasts 24 hours. The pain, 24 hours. And then 24 hours after that, you're still numb and tingling. That's just one locust. And there's tons of them. By the way, later on, he's going to tell you there's 200 million of them. That's a lot, just so you know. He says there's 2 myriads of myriads. That's 20,000 times 10,000. That's 200 million. So based on who's left alive, that's about 10 to 20 locusts per person, depending on if you have 2 billion left or 4 billion left when this takes place. Not cool. Just saying. That's a lot. So imagine 20 locusts minimum wailing on you. And that's 20 locusts, so that's 20 locusts biting you. Each one of their bites takes 24 hours before that pain goes away, another 24 hours before the numbness and tingling goes away, and before that even goes away, you have another bite, and another bite, and another sorry. And God's like, no, not yet! Not yet! Oh, come on, man. You know? It's like being waterboarded by locusts. It's unbelievable. So then he goes into verse 7, and it says, the death will fly from them. Death just says, see ya. The word fly means escapes from them. Yes.
Lady said John the Baptist ate them.
Yeah. And so Pam mentioned before about locusts representing demons. And so why did we read that John the Baptist ate locusts? It represented that John had power over demonic influence. They didn't mess with him. So John the Baptist was the greatest man Jesus said ever lived, born of a woman before or after him. So he ate locusts as if to say demons have no influence on him. None. That Satan and his minions didn't mess with John the Baptist. He was the parent of the way. He ate locusts like, to him, demonic warfare was like a walk in the park. He was like,
Honey, right?
what's that?
With wild honey.
Wild honey, yep. So he was a picture of a person who was just much like the apostles who were given dominion, having this authority over to cast out demons. He was that forerunner to that. He was a pre-apostolistic person who had dominion over demonic peoples and demonic forces. He just had no effect on him, which was unheard of, by the way. Until Jesus gave that power to the apostles, he first gave it to John the Baptist. He's the only one who had it before the apostles, was him. And it's pretty awesome. They didn't mess with him. He was not something to be trifled with. Yes?
And Lady said, does Joel 1 refer to this time?
Joel 1 refers to a time where he's going back to their captivity, and he's referring to their captivity in Babylon, and how it refers also to a future time of their tribulation of the enemy coming against them, but not the same exact. It's a indirect reference, but not a direct reference, because God uses the Assyrian Babylonian captivities of Israel to represent the culmination of the Assyrian, the Pharaoh, the evil one, Satan himself, pummeling them. So indirectly, yes, but not directly, no. So then we go also back to chapter 9, verse 7. So, and the forms of the locusts were like, then see this, they weren't horses, it says they were like horses prepared for war. So why did it say that? It didn't say they were horses. It says they were like horses prepared for war. Does that remind you of something? Well, I could remember that God just told you in Revelation 6 that the horsemen, the 4 horsemen, are the Antichrist and the beast as the white, red, black, and pale. Well, that's interesting. Well, why wouldn't the locusts, who are demonic representations, also be as horsemen for war? Yeah, no joke. Because they're showing, like when Satan is mocking Jesus. If you go back to Revelation 19, I'm not going to get there in the future, but look in the Revelation 19, and he says in verse 11, and I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. Okay? And then it says in verse 14, and those armies in heaven followed him on white horses, clothed in white, pure, fine linen. So all he's doing is mocking Jesus by saying, hey, I come as the 4 horsemen, as the white and the red and the black and the pale, and my armies follow behind me on horses. Oh, he's trying to mock Jesus to no avail, but he's going to do that. And so these locusts are real locusts, but they also represent demonic powers riding on horsemen. We're going to see later on. That's going to be mentioned in chapter 9 later on, from verse 16 and 17. We'll get there. But as he says, prepared for war. And on their heads, he says, was as a golden crown. Not a golden crown. People think it's this, I think it's kind of funny when you see folks, they actually draw a locust with a human's face, with an actual crown. And I'm like, no, dude, it's as a crown. As the face of a man. So it means it looks like, as the visage of that. All you got to do is think about a Disney movie. Jimmy the Cricket, for example, right? Think of any kind of animation you've ever seen in your life where they see a grasshopper talking, right? They make a grasshopper's face look like a person. It's not far-fetched because they do have eyes and a mouth, right? All these little nose there. All he's saying to you is that their face is more a semblance of a human than the average locust. It looks more semblance of a man's face than it normally would. That's all he's trying to say to you. It doesn't mean it looks like you and me. No. It's a special, they're the unique locust. So why they look that way? Because they're demonically possessed. That's why. The locusts are locusts, but they are demonically possessed by demons. They are possessed by demons. You go, demons possessing insects? Yes! Remember in Luke 8, when Jesus is talking to the man possessed, and the demon says, I am legion because I am many, have you come to torment us for the appointed time? And he says, don't throw us into the abyss. They knew that. That's in Luke 8, right? So, okay, well then don't throw us in the abyss. They know that's where their end game is. These demons came from the pit of the abyss, and they then possessed these locusts. And by the way, not just any locust, not just any insect. They have the power of a scorpion. Oh, and he ain't done describing him yet. That's all you know so far is, oh, right, scorpions. They have power. They're just tenacious. They're ready to strike. They're relentless. I got it. No, he's not done yet. Not this average locust. So they have as a crown of so their hair is kind of like straight up and down like a circle on their head. But they have microscopic hairs on their head, locusts do, that determine their wind and speed. So they have little things up here so it looks like a crown. Not an actual crown, but that means like a crown. And it's actually gold or yellow in color, which makes it look like a golden crown. So he's telling, it's not a real crown. He's saying the hair on their head is forming a circle, and it's like a yellow in color, so it makes it look like a crown. Which means, since they're like a scorpion, they can glow in the dark, their body's glowing, and their head is glowing like a circle, like a crown, and you see that and go, oh! Yeah, no kidding. Right? That's what he's talking about. What you're going to see is that. Yes?
I was going to say, because their appearance is reflecting the presence of all those fallen angels behind them.
Correct. So yep.
With the love and just the queen and all that.
Yep, because the women, and that's why God, and they have hair flowing as women to mock God, because that's why God told women back in the day, he said, don't cut your hair short, because it says back in Genesis, they took women, it means they raped them, took as they will, and had sex with them, had giants. So they said women have long hair to prevent them from looking upon them, so it was a glory of a woman as her hair. Yeah. So they're mocking God as if that's how they infiltrated and first polluted the sin upon mankind, was through the sexual intercourse of Satan and Eve. So he's mocking the glory of women, which is their hair, by having the locusts have long hair. So it's a mocking of God, putting the glory of women on her hair, and he's mocking them. Yeah. I'll take your glory you give to women, and I'll mock it like I did in the garden. I'll mock it again on the locusts. So fine, that's what they do. That's fine.
A lot of times, like in like art, like theology, angels are also portrayed with blonde hair themselves.
Yeah, and human. I've seen
like a majestic.
They usually make them women. That's why. Remember, most angels you see bought and sold as little statues and whatnot have a feminine. Yeah, they're all feminine. All of them are. I haven't seen very many that are male. Most of them are feminine. And they have the baby angel. That's the cherub. No, it ain't. The cherub is freaky looking. It's not a baby. I'll tell you that right.